This is Ifalade TaShia Asanti,
Mhm.
and I give full consent for my likeness and recording to be used for the archive.
Thank you. I'm Diane Barrett. It's 3/29/2022, and we're recording this for the BE collection. So I welcome TaShia. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
It's great to be here.
This is a legacy project. As you already know, we started it because of COVID. We were sort of locked up with nothing to do. And we like people's stories. So we've been interviewing lesbians over the age of 30 about their careers, because it is my personal opinion that your career choice, even though that may change through your life, as it has for many, really dictates a lot about you, about your security, your direction. And if a person like us, or a little bit older than 30, can guide a younger woman, or even a woman in our age group, into another direction, they can benefit from listening to this through the archives. We're associated with the June Mazer Lesbian Archives, who's associated with UCLA, and also with the Girth Archives, which is part of Cal State Dominguez Hills. And so it's we're out there now. We people have actually checked to see who we are and what we're doing, so that's good. I encourage that. And I look forward to hearing more about you. I could see from the information you gave me that you're a very energetic person, as well as intelligent.
Thank you.
And anybody that can solve the Zoom problem is impressive to me, because I'm limited, but I'm getting better.
I understand, yes.
So the first question I'll ask you is, where were you born?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois.
Me too.
Really? I didn't
Yes.
know that.
Right.
Awesome.
No, all right.
Yes.
So, interesting.
Great people, great things.
I know. That's right. I love Chicago, but I like being in California.
Yes.
So how
Yes.
long did you stay in Chicago?
I was only there as a small child,
Mhm.
and we moved here when I was pretty young to
Oh,
California, 7 years old.
Okay.
Yes. And we were following my aunt and grandmother who had moved before us.
Mhm.
And my family was very involved in politics. And so we really moved here to get more involved with that. And of course, my mother had a great job in
What
the
kind of work did she
as a
do?
teacher.
Uh-huh.
Yes, as a school teacher. And she headed an arts department in an urban community for youth. So we had a lot going on, very busy and active socially, family, and politically. So it was like a mad dive, a big dive into
Mhm.
a lot of great activism and work in the community here in Los Angeles.
How about in Chicago? Were they active there politically?
They were, but it was more of a social thing than it was political.
Mhm.
My father was a doctor and a pastor of a church in
Mhm.
Chicago, and he was very involved in the Black Panthers in the early years of its existence. So it kind of shifted from more of the grassroots to the mainstream when we moved to
Right.
California. Yes.
I think Chicago is still trying to do that.
Yes. Yes.
It's really I love being from Chicago, but I could tell they're struggling. And I had become an RN when I was younger. And just the experience of the women that I met here in Los Angeles in terms of their own confidence in themselves was so much greater than the women in Chicago.
Yes. Yes.
Professionally. It was an interesting transition. And, I was young, so I wasn't looking at it that carefully, but I did notice it.
Yes.
And how many children in your family?
I
Siblings?
am the youngest of 3 children.
Okay.
I'm the baby. Yes.
Are there any other lesbians in your family? Or
Rumor had it that my aunt was same gender loving, but there was no proof of that.
She didn't talk about
There
it.
were people in my family who were her close friends who years later, my niece and my niece is the other, I have 2 nieces, both of who are same gender loving.
Mhm.
We figured out that one of my grandmother's friends and one of my aunt's close friends, it's pretty likely that they were same gender loving. But we have no proof of that. They never told us that. my aunt finally confessed to me in her very later years
Uh-huh.
that she called it two-spirited.
You called it what?
She called it two-spirited.
That's interesting, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. She embraced more of an indigenous terminology.
Mm-hmm.
But so that was really good because I was struggling at the time with my own identity. And when she was the first person that I disclosed and had a conversation in my family with about my identity as a same gender loving woman. And she says, "Oh," she said, "that's no big deal." She says, "I've been gay all my life." I said, "What?" "But you were married to my uncle." And she said, "Yeah, well, that's what you did in my era,
That's right. That is
Right,
correct. Right.
right.
Fortunately, that's changing. Women have,
Yes.
options. Younger women. Yeah. Good. So, what time did you come out in your own life? How old were you?
Let's see. Officially, probably in my late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But, like most women who love women, I had an inkling about who I was when in my adolescence.
Right.
I found myself, attracted to people of the same gender.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no word for it in my culture at that time that I knew about, that I identified with in terms of who I was and how I felt. And so it would be years later where I would start to learn that there were people who liked people and were attracted to people of the same gender.
Mm-hmm.
And that really freed me and helped me to be comfortable and at peace with my choice. And then I happened upon the church Unity Fellowship with the late, great Archbishop Carl Bean. And when
Okay.
I heard his
Got
first
it.
sermon,
Mhm.
right, Diane, it just freed me because he said, love is for everyone. And he, explained it through the scriptures. And that really, really freed me and liberated me to be exactly who I am and was.
I had the I know Denise Wallace, as you know, and she mentioned him in her interview. And then we delivered flowers. So Valentine's Day, we were delivering flowers, Marge and myself, and we went past his I don't know what to call it. It wasn't a church, but
Yes.
built. It was beautiful, just
Yes.
stunning. I was so glad I knew about it, thanks to her. And
Oh,
it was
very
very,
nice.
yes, very nice.
Yeah.
And so then, did you marry heterosexually, or did you
I did
miss that?
initially.
Mhm.
I did. I married a guy and I had a kid, and I really had a life planned as that
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
But as spirit would have it, I ended up, coming into myself and coming into who I believe I was really meant to be. And
Right.
that in no way takes away from the love that I shared with that individual,
Right. That's right.
because that was divine too,
Mhm.
but it wasn't who I was. It wasn't all of who I was. And that's important to honor and to celebrate all of who we are.
Right. So
Ashe.
where are you living now?
I live in Palm Springs,
That's what I thought. Huh?
California. Yes.
Mhm. That's it.
Yes.
You're brave to live there. It's so warm.
It's very hot, very
Right.
hot. It's a different kind of hot.
So what's been the greatest adventure in your own personal life?
Oh man,
To date?
I tell you, there is a running joke about me. My people who are closest to me say that I will never let any grass grow under my feet because I've had a pretty incredible journey, starting with coming out at a young age in my 20s.
Huh?
When I got involved early on as an activist, as a writer, as a journalist, was how I started my journey. As you know, I was the first African American columnist for the LN, the Lesbian News
Mhm.
magazine back then.
I
And
believe
then
it.
I
I
became a
remember that.
features writer and I started to do work similar to what you're doing
Uh-huh.
with interviewing and telling the stories of African American lesbians across the world. And then I segued from that full on into my work as a journalist, and I became editor of one of the top 10 Black newspapers, and I started writing for newspapers and magazines across the country. And then I wrote my first book.
I've seen you've written several books.
Yes, I wrote
Uh,
7 books so far, and was editor for several others. And it has just been, an incredible journey. But it went from music. I started off in the music industry. I was a female rapper.
Ah,
So I kind of yes, I wove my activism
uh-huh.
and my poetry and my love of writing and performing arts into my rap music. And I became a mother at a young age. And soon thereafter was a single mom, same gender loving woman, raising this daughter
Uh-huh.
on my own. And so that in itself was a journey, me being who I was becoming, being so very out,
Right. You
and
were really out.
right. And not long thereafter becoming pretty much a public figure and being on the news, on broadcast news and an organizer, organizing marches and protests against homophobia, against racism, against, genderism and all types of isms.
They're really
Yeah.
exploding right now, huh? Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting to watch.
Yes. So so it's been an ongoing journey this last, wow, 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And it still hadn't stopped. I'm like, okay, it's gonna slow down.
I don't think so. No, uh, no, I don't see it slowing down.
Yes.
So this is a question now. If a person is coming out, they want to be active, but they don't know what direction to go and to develop. And activism, as you know, takes a lot of time. It sort of can take over your life. How would you suggest that they research it for themselves so that they know they're in the direction that fits with where they're at this time in their life?
Yes.
Good.
I think, Diane, that there are many types of activism, types
Okay.
of activism and activists.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone doesn't have to be on the front lines.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone doesn't have to organize the marches and the protests. At one point I didn't retire, but I flew to the back of the formation to recharge my battery.
That's interesting.
And
that's a great experience.
Yeah. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I just flew to the back of the formation and I passed the baton.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing my activism in different ways.
Right.
So I used my pen as a form of activism. I used my books. I used my journalistic stories. I used my poetry because, my poetry is one of my first loves. And so I think that, we can do activism by helping to make some juice or grow some food for a person who is doing the activism. Our revolution can look any way that we choose it to look that feels good to our spirit. And so I think that, we have to search ourselves for the way that we're meant to be used in the world and in the universe when it comes to telling our story, when it comes to supporting the liberation of all people.
It would be a core question that a person could ask themselves about finding their direction in activism.
I think you should listen to your spirit. And if your spirit tells you, hey, I'm going to grow food, that's my form of activism.
Okay, say it does. So what would be a step that they could take? I think
I would connect with people who are doing that work. I would, look online that, social media is a great resource. There's thousands, if not millions of groups and platforms where you can connect with other people who are doing what you're called to do. So search Facebook, search Instagram, search TikTok, search Twitter for the people who are doing the kind of work that you're called to do. Are you called to be a book publisher? Are you called to publish your work? Are you called to be a journalist or a filmmaker? Whatever it is that makes you feel alive and resonates with your spirit, you want to find your tribe of people who are doing what you do and figure out a way to get involved that best fits your life.
One of the reasons we started this was to help inspire younger women. And they get stuck and then they go a direction that really isn't going to work for them. Or depression, drugs, whatever.
Yes.
People like you can help them. And I'm sure you do. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Did you have any formal education that led you to your journalism or?
Well, actually, I kind of dove right in before I got to started attending college to
Uh,
study journalism, but I did major in journalism. I attended UCLA. I attended El Camino College when I was a young mom,
mhm.
because it was, what could fit with my schedule of having to work full time so that I could take care of my daughter. And then I competed and was given a full scholarship to study writing at UCLA through the International Black Writers and Artists Organization.
Mhm.
And then later, I was selected to be a Lambda Fellow through the Lambda Literary Association and was given one of their great awards of a full scholarship to go through their writing program.
Isn't that great? Huh?
Yes,
Scholarships
yeah,
are wonderful.
that
Right.
was a great, great honor for me. Yes. So I got to go to my school, which I loved. I love UCLA.
Mhm.
I loved going there. I have been involved in their activism scene for many years through the Take Back the Night organization and work that the college was doing. I was every year for probably about a decade, I was the speaker for that, and then was eventually invited to be the speaker for their graduation. So it was an incredible journey. But yes, so my formal schooling was through UCLA and El Camino College.
Great.
Yes.
Where's your daughter living now? Palm
My
Springs?
daughter lives in Colorado.
Okay.
Yes.
She didn't want that
Yes.
heat.
Yeah, she got away from that. Yeah. Well, we were living in Southern California in LA at the time.
Mm.
And then we ended up moving because my spouse got a great professional opportunity to head up national engineering for a major corporation. So we actually moved to Colorado in 1999 and we're going to spend 12 years there.
Huh?
And I continue my activism in Colorado. That's where I became the editor of the Denver Urban Spectrum newspaper, which is one of the top 10 Black newspapers in the country. And that was a pretty big deal for me to be a same gender loving woman,
Right.
being editor of this mainstream newspaper. So I brought a lot of incredible stories to that newspaper and also founded the Read Us National Black Book Awards, where I honored over 250 writers. So it was pretty exciting being able to do that. And I started doing a television segment on PBS
Huh?
called Colorado State of Mind, and I became like
Huh?
their go-to person.
Huh?
And then Fox Television picked me up for a show called The Fox Box with anchorwoman Shaw Turner.
Huh?
So I started doing a lot of broadcast news.
How about your love relationships other than your spouse, your husband?
Yes, well, I've been with my wife of 22 years. And in 2014, we opened up our life and expanded our life to include another partner
Huh?
who, we all became family together.
Mhm.
And so we've been on that journey for a good long time with all the shifts and, turns that go with a journey like that. So it's been a pretty amazing walk and pretty amazing work.
Sounds like you like to try things.
Yeah, somewhat.
Right.
I usually kind of stick to it a
Right.
very long time, everything I do. So,
You
yeah.
like that spirit of adventure, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Oh,
So
sure.
we'd be happy to interview those women also. Those
Awesome.
fellows.
Yeah.
Huh. So what's the greatest adventure that you've done so far?
Oh man, there's been so many. Well, I
What's the
think
first one that comes to your mind?
probably there's two films that I co-produced, wrote, and starred in.
Mhm.
One was called Train Station, and the other one was called Rashida X. And both of them, entered the film circuit and went all over the world, garnered a few awards here and there. But both of them were stories about same gender loving women, African American same gender loving women. So I think doing those films really created a lot of visibility. Train Station was the first openly SGLBT film to premiere at the Pan African Film Festival.
What's it
So
about?
there had never been a queer Black film. So it came out, a lot of people came and supported the premiere of the film, and it was a short film. So it touched a lot of people's lives and gave a lot of people the courage to be who they are. That was certainly a big journey of mine.
Did
And
you
then in
write the script?
2003, yes, I wrote the script for that
You
and
did.
wrote and co-produced it with Stephanie DeCarl Wynn.
Uh-huh.
And we had worked together with her magazine. She had a small kind of mom and pop magazine called Gay Black Female, which I was the editor of for many years. And we did that, and it ended up getting national notoriety. And we did a lot of work and created a lot of visibility for writers, some of whom are, at the top of their game now. And then in 2003, I guess another big groundbreaking journey was I got cast into a reality TV show with Universal Pictures on the Sci-Fi Channel network. And so, yeah.
What was the role that you played?
It was a reality show, so I really wasn't playing a role.
Spontaneous, right?
Right, I was being myself. But the show was about cultural diversity, and it was about challenging people's beliefs and notions and stereotypes of people who seem different from them. So I went on there as a Yoruba priestess because I am a Yoruba Ifa priestess. I practice an indigenous spirituality called Ifa, which comes from Nigeria, West Africa. And so I had to come out to the world again, as a priest.
Good.
And I mean, it was a huge show. There were billboards all over Los Angeles on the side of the Beverly Center. There was a huge billboard with my picture in it. And, we were on in the New York Times and USA Today and TV Guide. It was, a pretty big endeavor.
I hope you archive all that.
Yes, we did.
Right.
Yes, and then the show got picked up internationally, so it went global. It went to the UK and Canada and all around the world. So that was a pretty incredible outing, so to speak.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you sleep?
Do I sleep?
Yeah.
Barely. Only when I have to.
Right.
Yeah, I always say I'll sleep when I'm dead.
My father used to say that.
I'm only kidding. I do get my sleep on, but I do work a lot.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
Yes.
That's great. I mean, it looks good on you. Why not do it?
Thank you. I received that.
Really.
I received that. So I just keep, Diane, just trying to do good work.
Right. That's good. What kind of car do you drive?
That's so funny that you would ask me that, because I was at a group, there's a group called Nawiri, which is a same gender loving Black women's group. And they asked a question, just like for the sake of discussion. They asked the question, if you could have any car you wanted, what kind of car would you want? And everybody went around and said Rolls Royces and BMWs and Mercedes. And so when it came to me, I said, well, I really don't want a car. I want a driver. And they fell out laughing.
Right.
It's like, because I'm getting at that age.
I don't have time to drive.
Right. I don't see that well at night. And, I like having a driver. I want to chill in the back.
Yeah.
And play on my phone and be on social media and doing a live stream. It's like, I don't want to drive anymore. But if I have to drive, I would probably love to have either one of those Teslas. I love Teslas. And I do like Mercedes. Those are two of my favorite cars.
Those are good cars.
Yes.
The Tesla doesn't have that. It has the interest, but not the design yet.
Yes. I want the one that runs on vegetable oil, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or hairspray or something like that.
Yes.
Sounds good. So, if you knew that your life was ending, what would you like to be remembered for?
Love. And so I just live my life trying to, facilitate and nurture the energy of love the best I can each day in my life.
You exude it.
I received that. Thank you. You do too.